A couple years ago in Generation 2, I played every single baby Pokemon in November. It was an absolutely brutal month. That said, some of the babies performed quite well. I was really surprised with Pokemon like Elekid, Magby, and Smoochum, which held their own, in some cases against legendary Pokemon, where Elekid outpaced Raikou in its first playthrough. Don't worry, the legendary did outperform Elekid in the follow-up playthrough once it had access to Hidden Power Ice. That's just the advantage that Elekid had. It had Ice Punch throughout the majority of the game. Now, Elekid is a good baby Pokemon, but there were also bad babies like Tyrogue, which was absolutely awful. Last year, I didn't want to have an absolutely hellish November, so I decided to play the pseudo-legendaries, including their prior evolutions, and Larvitar and Dratini ended up performing similarly to a lot of the babies. Better than the worst babies, but not as good as the trio that I mentioned earlier. This November, I want to continue playing some bad Pokemon in Crystal version. There are two grass types that I expect are going to perform absolutely atrociously: Hoppip and Sunkern. So today, let's tackle Hoppip, and by tackle, I mean splash, because this Pokemon does not get any damage dealing moves at the beginning of the game. It starts with Splash, Synthesis, and Tail Whip, forcing me to waste a ton of time spamming out all of these moves until I'm able to use Struggle and then grind towards level 10 when I will get Tackle, and then I can finally damage Pokemon normally. For base stats, Hoppip has 35 HP, attack, and special attack, 40 defense, 50 speed, and 55 special defense. Luckily, it has a medium slow growth rate, so it levels up very quickly in the early game, and then it's going to slow down by the time it reaches level 68, which could be a problem since I assume that I'm going to need a very high level in order to defeat Red. Through Level Up, we can see how the developers wanted you to use Hoppip as a status-inflicting Pokemon. It has Poison Powder, Stun Spore, and Sleep Powder, which it all learns before level 20, and then it gets Leech Seed. Beyond that, it gets Cotton Spore to lower the enemy's speed, and finally at level 30, Mega Drain. Its first and only damage-dealing Grass-type move that it learns by Level Up. Through TM and HM, things do not get much better. It does get Return and Headbutt, but it lacks Swift, and then for coverage, it gets honestly nothing. Giga Drain and Solar Beam are the only two type-based damage-dealing moves that it gets other than Hidden Power, which, in order to keep these videos as interesting and as painful as possible, I am not allowed to use in my first playthrough. Okay, so I'm struggling away, I'm grinding all the way to level 10. I'm doing this before I fight the rival to ensure that I gain all the experience from defeating his Cyndaquil. While I continue my training, I just want to talk about one gripe that I have with Generation 2, and that is the fact that all of the new Pokemon seem gated off in the late game. Now, you're gonna say to me, but Scott, Hoppip is available in the early game. The developers clearly wanted you to pick this thing up and use it. And no, they didn't. Remember what I said about its starting set? When I was a kid and I got a Hoppip, and then I looked at its moveset and found that it was Splash, Synthesis, and Tail Whip, I immediately tried to use it, found out that none of those moves deal damage, and then immediately boxed it and never used it again. It feels like the developers are taunting you with a new Pokemon. Look at this interesting new species. You want to use it, don't you? Oh no, its moves are all completely trash. You don't actually want to use it. Just put it in the box and never think about it again. And even if you spent the time raising Hoppip up, unlike Magikarp, which eventually evolves into Gyarados, Hoppip turns into Jumpluff. Right now, it is in the E tier, an absolutely terrible fully evolved Pokemon. By the way, if you're wondering why Pokemon like Sudowoodo or Skarmory, Mantine, Lantern, why are they all down here with Jumpluff? Well, I played those runs quite some time ago. I'm sure they're all going to escape the E tier when I come back and play them again. So what is going to happen to Hoppip when it isn't able to evolve and it isn't able to use Hidden Power? Well, that's what we're going to take quite some time to examine today. It takes me 6 minutes and 40 seconds to get access to Tackle. Then I go back and fight the rival. Obviously, he's taken Cyndaquil today because that'll make the game as hard as possible for me. Although, I don't think he's going to be that much of a problem, except for in Azalea Town, because for the majority of this playthrough, I expect that I'm going to be over-leveled. And in that spirit, just like with the baby Pokemon, I am going to be battling every optional trainer that I come across. I'll probably point out the people that I end up skipping for type effectiveness reasons, but I'll also mention if at some point in the run I start skipping optional trainers. That'll likely happen in Kanto. Those people are all pretty bad. They don't give good experience yields and they just waste time. Efficient training with Pokemon Crystal looks like getting to the Elite Four as soon as possible, blackout training against them until you're a really high level that is going to give you the ability to beat Red, fighting no more optional trainers after Lance is defeated. So that's going to be my strategy for today. Now in these challenges there are typically two different strategies that you can take in order to get to the Elite Four as fast as possible. Number one is risk your way through a bunch of fights and then get there with a bunch of resets using lucky strategies. And number two is play as consistently as possible and then arrive there slower but with no resets. The problem with Hoppip is the only risky strategy that I can see in the early game is utilizing Flash, which has 70% accuracy. Also, accuracy debuffs were nerfed in Generation 2 so that they only take 100% accurate moves down to 75% accuracy with a single hit, whereas in Generation 1, after one turn, they go down to 66%. Because of this, I don't think that Flash is the path to success with Hoppip in the early game, and things are really bad for it here because the first 4 gym leaders have massive type advantages over me. Falkner is a flying type leader, Bugsy is a bug type specialist, Whitney has rock type moves, and the only damage dealing moves that I have against Morty are going to be Mega Drain or Leech Seed. Because of this, I'm going to play as conservatively as I can in the early game, exploring optional areas like Sprout Tower to soak up additional experience. By the way, this is just another piece of proof that they didn't want you to use a Hoppip in the early game. They made all of the gym leaders good against it. Why would you add this Pokemon to your team? Let me know in the comments if when you were a kid, specifically when you were a kid, if you used a Hoppip as a part of your team in Generation 2. I am so curious to hear your experiences with it. Okay, back to the run. By the time I'm defeating the Sage at the top of the tower, Hoppip has leveled up to 15 and learned Poison Powder, which in combination with Synthesis can actually be quite good. Birdkeeper Abe inside of the gym is not really that scary, even though Peck is doing a lot of damage, which makes me slightly worried about Falkner's Pidgeotto and its uses of Gust. Before I fight Falkner, let's talk about one last gripe that I have with the Hoppip line. You know some Pokemon that you catch in the early game, they typically evolve around level 10, like the bugs for example? That's really nice because you can experience evolution early on into a playthrough, learn about the mechanics of the game, but also one of the first Pokemon that you catch becomes way cooler early into the run. Experiencing this kind of mechanic had magical effects on me in Generation 1. My Butterfree evolved at level 10 and then I was able to beat Brock using Confusion. This experience caused a bond to form with me and Butterfree, and for the longest time it was my favorite Pokemon. You might think that Hoppip would be similar, evolving at a low level, and the answer is no, it evolves into Skiploom at level 18. Why level 18? This doesn't make any sense. It's even 2 levels higher than most starters evolve. At least it evolves into Jumpluff at level 27, if you ever get it there. So I've griped about Hoppip a lot, but let me just say, its design is absolutely fantastic. This Pokemon is outrageously cute, but most of the Pokemon introduced in Generation 2 are also cute and also quite round. I guess it fits the theme, but that doesn't help it stand out from the rest. Alright, I have found a way to work my compliment into something that is not an advantage of Hoppip. Anyways, let's get back to the solo challenge and fight Falkner. I'm sure this is gonna be fine, right? Pidgey is up first. I soften it up with one turn of Tail Whip, and it isn't doing very much damage with its own tackles. So I continue using Tail Whip, lowering its defense, because I can just use Synthesis, heal back all the damage that it's done to me, and then knock it out in one turn with Tackle. Pidgeotto's next, and I know that I'm going to want to use Synthesis here because it's going to be using Gust against me, which will do a lot of damage. So to synergize, I use Poison Powder so that he'll be taking damage even when I'm spamming my healing move. Gust is doing a lot, and Pidgeotto gets a critical hit, which is scary, but luckily Hoppip has a berry. This is an advantage I have over any enemy Pokemon in Generation 2. None of the enemies are holding items. That starts in Generation 3. Poison puts in some serious work here, and because of the healing, Hoppip is able to pull through. If it didn't have Synthesis, I would have lost here, and I would have been forced to level up to like, I don't know, 18 or 20 maybe to beat Falkner. It's really convenient that Hoppip starts with this move. South of Violet City, I pick up the Miracle Seed, which boosts the power of Grass-type moves by 10%. However, for Hoppip, it's not useful yet because I have to get to level 30 to get Mega Drain. There is no other way for me to upgrade my Pokemon in the next section of the game other than just battling all of the trainers' Pokemon. And in terms of type effectiveness, this next section of the game is not particularly forgiving for grass types. Fisher Ralph has a Goldeen with Peck. Luckily, no problems here for Hoppip. Inside the cave, I fight this guy who has 2 coughing, in general just a little bit annoying for a grass type to go up against, and the final trainer in the cave also has a fire type, Vulpix. Outside of the cave, I decided to skip Anthony since his Geodude is a rock type which resists all of my current attacks because I have no grass type damage dealing moves. It's so frustrating. Also, the Geodude knows Rock Throw, and because of Hoppip's secondary type, it would be hit for super effective damage. The annoying type interactions just continue inside of Slowpoke well. By the way, I make the decision here not to teach Hoppip Leech Seed, favoring my current moveset Tackle, Synthesis, Sleep Powder, and Poison Powder. There's an implication of this decision just around the corner. I'm sure you can figure it out. Anyways, let's talk about Slowpoke well because the annoying type interactions continue here. For example, these Zubat, which with Supersonic are able to give Hoppip its first Blackout. He doesn't get lucky the second time around though. The final Rocket in the well has a coughing. I just put it to sleep with Sleep Powder and then knock it out quickly using Tackle. The bad type interactions continue inside of the gym. There are a bunch of bug types of course, as well as poison types. And while Hoppip's flying type is slightly defensively helpful here, I do want to point out the fact that it does not learn any flying type moves. I was wondering if Game Freak maybe released an event Hoppip at some point that did have access to a flying type move, and they did release an event Hoppip, but it does not get a flying type move. Instead, it was given Agility, which kind of feels like it should be a flying type move since so many flying type Pokemon learn it. I think Hoppip would be so much better if it learned an early game flying type move. Imagine if this thing got just Peck at level like 15 or 17. We would have super effective damage against all of Bugsy's Pokemon, and we would be benefiting from the type-based boost from Falkner's Badge as well as the same type attack bonus. But that is not the world we live in. Instead, we have to fight Bugsy with Tackle. At the start of the fight, I noticed that I'm already slower than the Scyther, which means I don't have to worry about taking my time knocking out the Metapod and being hit by String Shot. But I do need to play carefully against the Kakuna. I want to avoid it using Poison Sting and inflicting the status condition on Hoppip. I could have gone into this fight with a Poison Cure Berry, but I'm just holding the Miracle Seed. Like, I'm holding it waiting for when I get access to Mega Drain. I should have had the Poison Cure Berry here. Still, Sleep Powder's able to do some good work against the Kakuna, and I knock it out without a status condition. Then, Scyther comes in. While Fury Cutter is neutral, over time it's going to do a lot of damage. But Hoppip can break its combo using Sleep Powder, and then when Scyther's asleep, I can just heal my health with Synthesis. If it wakes up, uses 1 or 2 Fury Cutters, I'm not too worried about that because I can put it to sleep again, heal, and then continue using Tackle. It's a slow way to play because Hoppip is doing almost no damage, but it is fairly consistent, and eventually I'm able to pull through with a win against the second gym leader. Earlier on I mentioned that dropping Leech Seed had an implication, and it's right here against the rival. I have no answer to his Ghastly. Obviously the solution here should be Leech Seed followed by Sleep Powder, drain the Ghastly as much as possible, and then move on with the battle. Sleep Powder plus Synthesis should be enough for the Quilava, and I don't expect that the Zubat's going to be that challenging. As you can see here in my first fight against the Ghastly, it doesn't make sense for Hoppip to stall it out since it's not a normal type, and Lick is going to be able to inflict both paralysis as well as damage. I could potentially use Synthesis and hopefully stall out the Ghastly, but I don't think that this is the best way to play things. Instead, I'm going to fight wild Pokemon, spam out all of my moves so that I can use Struggle against the rival. While I was doing this, I genuinely considered starting this playthrough over just so that I could have Leech Seed for the rival. It is so obviously a mistake that I didn't learn it. I kept Poison Powder since I thought it could be useful against Scyther, but it really wasn't helpful against Bugsy. Sleep Powder was all that I needed there. After a bunch of time training, I make it back to the rival, and now we get to see how Struggle is doing. It 2-shots the Ghastly, which is pretty good. Quilava comes out next, and this looks like it's going to be a 3 or a 4 hit. In this case, a 4 hit. And due to the recoil damage plus Ember being super effective, the Quilava is able to knock out Hoppip first. I attempted one more time before going back doing a small amount of training and leveling up to 24. Still, the Quilava is kind of sketchy. In this case, it critical hit, which is so unfortunate. Because of that, it's able to knock out Hoppip. Okay, so I need a way to boost my damage so that I'm able to 3-shot the Quilava. I could level up to 25, but that's going to take quite some time since wild Pokemon in Johto are all at really low levels. There is another way to do this though, because in Generation 2, the game views Struggle as a normal type move. And when checking your held item and if it should boost your damage, it does not have an exception for Struggle, so the Pink Bow will boost my damage by 10%. I have to walk back all the way to the first route of the game though to talk to Tuscany in order to get this item. I will admit that this this took a bunch of time, but I think it's the better strategy at this point in the run. This time around, using Struggle against the Quilava, I am able to 3-shot, and because of that I take less damage. Then I move on to Zubat, and even though my accuracy was lowered by the Quilava using Smokescreen, I'm able to hit just enough times and pull through with only 2 hit points remaining. Okay, time for a major upgrade. Inside the forest, I can at long last replace Tackle with Headbutt. With this upgrade, I felt like I was fine skipping some optional trainers. As you can see, I'm just walking by everyone inside of the gym. But reviewing this footage, I immediately realized that this is not the safest way to play. Look at Hoppip's speed. It's 45. Miltank has 48, so I'm not going to be able to flinch it with Headbutt as things are right now. I think that leveling up a little bit more might have given me slightly more security for Whitney, but I didn't do that. Instead, I'm going to be relying on Sleep Powder. Clefairy is first. The only way this Pokemon could do something good is if it rolls a great move with Metronome, and it does. It gets Body Slam, luckily not inflicting paralysis. I put it to sleep on turn 2, and then start using Headbutt, and I can 2-shot. This feels really good with Hoppip. It levels up, has only 47 speed, so it's 1 point slower than the Miltank. Whitney's Ace goes for Rollout, gets a critical hit on turn 1, bringing me under half health. Luckily, Sleep Powder works, breaking its combo. I can use Synthesis then, healing to near full health, and start chipping away with Headbutt, which is doing roughly 1/5. But on turn 2 attacking, I get a critical hit, taking her down to orange health, so it only takes 4 turns to knock out her ace, and it snoozes the entire time. That fight's good proof that having the extra speed for Whitney just isn't required. The next section of the game is a little bit brutal. I have to go up against Sudowoodo, which is a rock type. I make myself defeat this thing on first playthroughs. I just find it more fun that way. I have to knock it out with a combination of Poison Powder, Headbutt, and Synthesis. It's slow going, but I do win. Luckily, the Sudowoodo has no idea that it should be spamming Rock Throw. Then I have to face the Kimono Girls, and there's some type disadvantages once again for Hoppip here. They just continue into the mid-game. Why did Game Freak hate grass types so much in Generation 2? I've also been chatting with some people behind the scenes, and I have heard that grass types are also pretty bad in Generation 5. It's very sad that this typing, which was once excellent in Generation 1, has fallen so far. Luckily, the Flareon doesn't cause any problems. Before fighting the rival, I'm going to go to the lighthouse and continue my training. Once again, I will bemoan the type matchups here. Noctowl is the first Pokemon I have to face, and then the second gentleman has 2 Growlithe. At the end of the area, because it's the first playthrough in Generation 2, I am going to fight Dennis. By the way, more recently, I've stopped fighting him in second playthroughs with really exceptional Pokemon because I'm trying to save every morsel of time that I can. But today with Hoppip, I might as well get the experience. This Furo is a little bit scary, but it gives good yields, and I'm able to knock it out without too many issues. Doing all of this has brought Hoppip up to level 32, so now it has Mega Drain, finally a grass type move. And it's really important because it's my only damage against the Ecruteak City ghosts. The first one is the rival's Haunter and Burned Tower. This thing is so annoying if you can't one-shot. Luckily, I am faster, so I'm going to be able to use Sleep Powder and miss, and then get hit by Curse anyway. So if I try to play the fight out now, I'm going to lose. Yes, I can heal a little bit of health with Mega Drain, but it's not enough to counteract the damage that Curse is dealing. Plus, then I miss Sleep Powder on the Quilava and get hit by Ember. Not a great first fight. The second fight, I put it to sleep, and then I chip away with Mega Drain. It takes so many turns to knock out the Haunter that it just wakes up, inflicts Curse anyway, and I end up in the same scenario I was last time. I can 3-shot the Quilava with Headbutt, but Curse plus Ember does too much damage. What I have to wait for here is Sleep to afflict the Haunter for like 3 to 5 turns. If I get a critical hit along the way, it will speed up my progress. Third time is not the charm. This Haunter wakes up the turn before I knock it out and uses Curse. Then the damage is too much, and while I do finish the Quilava, I end up fainting to the Magnemite because I have trash moves against Steel types. Okay, let's just say theoretically you added Hoppip to your team and now it's Jumpluff. At this point in the playthrough, are you thinking about sending out a grass type against the rival's team? He has Haunter, Magnemite, Zubat, and Quilava. Also, if this is the rival's team you're going up against, then you picked Chikorita, so you wouldn't have Hoppip anyway. Why double up on grass type coverage? Unless you're doing a mono grass type playthrough, in which case my condolences. Finally, this time sleep works against the Haunter and I knock it out without curse. Then I tried to put the Quilava to sleep, but I kept missing. This was really frustrating. Luckily I went for Lyran's Smokescreen. I know accuracy drops are annoying, but I would rather that than Ember. It falls asleep eventually and then Headbutt hits enough to finish his ace. Sleep works again on the Magnemite. This is just so I can avoid Supersonic and attack with Headbutt for free over a few turns. It ends up working. I make it to the Zubat and finish it with 2 hits. I have a brief moment of peace unleashing the legendary Pokemon on Johto, and then I have to head into the Ghost Gym. The random trainers here might be more difficult than the rival. Sage Ping has 5 Ghastly, all of them no curse, and I have to knock them out with Mega Drain, a move that only has 10 PP. By the way, I cannot obtain a Mystery Berry to replenish PP mid-battle at this point in the playthrough, and I also can't obtain any PP ups. Both of those items come after I get access to Surf, which comes from Morty's badge. This means I need to knock out each of these Ghastly with 2 uses of Mega Drain, and as we can see from the first Ghastly, this is going to be possible, but there's a lot of downside. I could get paralyzed by Lick, which is what happens here on turn 1. Sleep Powder could miss if I try that over and over again, and then the Ghastly could hit me with Spite, lowering Mega Drain's PP. If that happens, I'm going to lose. Everything falls apart for Hoppip. It can't move because of paralysis, I get afflicted by Curse, and then Spite drops Mega Drain's PP. So there's a problem here. What level would I need to one-shot these Ghastly to make it a consistent fight? At level 33, I am doing between 58 and 68% damage with each use of Mega Drain. I would have to level 10 more times to 43 to have a 37.8% chance to one-shot each Ghastly. At level 45, I would have a 90.4% chance, and finally a guarantee at level 46. 13 levels higher, which is just completely unrealistic for Hoppip because grinding on wild Pokemon in Johto is so slow. The faster approach here, even though it is going to be inconsistent, is putting each one of the 5 Ghastly to sleep first, preventing it from attacking and then knocking it out over 2 turns with Mega Drain. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that I would have to reset trying this strategy, but it just worked out the first time. And I can rinse and repeat against every single other Ghost type specialist inside the gym. Note, it's not gonna work perfectly against Morty just yet because Hoppip's speed is 63. Morty's Gengar has 64 speed, and while I did level up to 34 inside the gym, getting myself to a speed tie with his ace, I decided to go and train on other trainers west of the city in order to level up one more time. This has 2 advantages. I'm over a damage rounding threshold, and I'm also now going to move first against every single one of Morty's Pokemon. Provided Mega Drain is doing enough damage and doesn't run out of PP mid-battle, and Sleep Powder hits against every one of his Pokemon, I think I should be able to win. Ghastly is first, Sleep Powder works, and Mega Drain can't 2-shot. That's unfortunate, so I need to use 3 PP on his first Pokemon, and the Haunter is likely going to take 3 or 4. In this case, 4, which is really unfortunate, leaving me with only 3 PP left over for the Gengar, and there's no way I knock it out unless I get 3 critical hits. I don't. I just hit regularly 3 times and do less than half damage to his ace. Just like Sage Ping, I don't know if there's a lot of upside to grinding to a higher level. Instead, I decided to put my faith in Sleep Powder and use it over and over again against the Ghastly, spamming out all of my uses of Headbutt and Synthesis so that I could use Struggle to knock out Morty's remaining Pokemon. Luckily for me, the Gengar does not have Curse, so I don't have to worry about status conditions other than Hypnosis. And even then, because I do get put to sleep, I think I can still play things out from here. Just because all of us love numbers, I think that's why you're here on my channel. You really like examining things in depth. Let's talk about which level would be required to maybe make it through Morty's Pokemon using Mega Drain. I say maybe because this is not going to be a guarantee. At level 48, Mega Drain can 2-shot the Ghastly at the beginning of the fight, then it has a 59.6% chance to 2-shot the Haunter, a 17.4% chance to 3-shot the Gengar, leaving me with 3 PP to knock out the Haunter. That's a guarantee. There is upside here of finishing it in only 2 turns, 12.8%, and that would leave me with 1 extra PP of Mega Drain. I think this is the first level that makes sense to fight Morty if you want to finish him using Mega Drain. This is another spot in the run where Leech Seed would also be helpful. With Jumpluff, I ended up using using Leech Seed here to get success against Morty. It was a very painful battle because unfortunately Jumpluff learns Mega Drain later than Hoppip does. Wait, I just learned on Bulbapedia that I can click these little arrows and resort the move pool by a bunch of different categories. How have I never known this? Anyway, Jumpluff learns Mega Drain at level 44, and as I was getting closer and closer towards Struggle, I was thinking that this fight might actually be easier with Hoppip. Unfortunately though, I get hit by Dream Eater, I'm already out of Synthesis, and then Gengar drains so much of Hoppip's health. I was able to put it back to sleep, but now I don't have enough health to use Struggle. So I end up losing against Morty, even though it was a really long battle. I can make this fight easier by fighting wild Pokemon as well as trainers, depleting my PP on Headbutt, and then coming back to fight Morty. This way, I only need to deplete Sleep Powder, Synthesis, and Mega Drain in order to use Struggle. I still take 2 more losses. One of them was a long fight where I got defeated by Dream Eater against the Gengar once again, but then in my 4th attempt, I'm finally able to use Struggle and finish off the Ghost Specialist. This is a 4th split of 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 28 seconds. Let's get a sense for Hoppip's pace. Nidoking has beaten the entire game by this point. The best result I got with it was 1 hour, 1 minute, and 57 seconds. Luckily for Hoppip, the next section of the game is really straightforward. I don't think that I'm going to have significant problems against Chuck. Nob inside his gym does have a Machoke which knows Rock Slide, but he doesn't have good AI. But even here when he does use Rock Slide, it just doesn't do enough damage. So Hoppip pulls through, and then I take on Chuck. I am a grass flying type against Chuck, a fighting type specialist who has an ace which is a water type. Also, Dynamic Punch is terrible against Hoppip, and so is Surf. The Primeape can't do much damage with its ineffective moves, and it doesn't even lower my defense, putting me in the perfect position for the Poliwrath. But then Sleep Powder misses, Poliwrath takes aim, Sleep Powder misses again, Dynamic Punch hits, and I get confused. Hoppip hits itself in confusion, Dynamic Punch misses, and then I finally put the Poliwrath to sleep. But I'm still confused, and Hoppip hits itself. Not once, but twice. And then Poliwrath goes for Dynamic Punch one last time as I'm using Mega Drain to gain back health. This time though, Dynamic Punch hits and it crits. So Hoppip ends up losing. Chuck is genuinely one of the worst gym leaders in Pokemon Crystal. I can't believe that Hoppip of all Pokemon had a reset here. Anyways, he's not gonna win again. I can just attack with Mega Drain instead of trying to go for Sleep Powder. This is by far more consistent. I just 3-shot the Poliwrath and earn myself an easy win. You know what would be nice? If a flying type Pokemon could learn flying type moves. Sometimes when playing with first stage Pokemon, and even fully evolved Pokemon that skip a bunch of training, the Red Gyarados can be problematic. You have to either catch it or defeat it if your solo challenge rules prevent you from using items in battle. The Pokédoll is the third option available because you can't just regularly run from this Pokemon. Luckily, Hoppip doesn't struggle here and I defeat it on my first attempt. The entire Rocket plotline is easy and uneventful as usual, but I do want to mention this scientist with his Magnemite. Steel types are still a significant problem, and that does make me slightly worried about Jasmine's team. Her Magnemites all have Thunderbolt, and the Steelix does know Rock Throw. Now, I could have fought her next, but I decided to go for Pryce. After all, he has water and ground types and I'm super effective against them. Also, Pryce is one of the worst gym leaders in the entire Pokemon series. I know I was just making fun of Chuck for how bad he is, but I think that Pryce is genuinely worse. Chuck is Generation 2's Surge, Pryce is Generation 2's Bruno. But I should be careful about what I'm saying today because Hoppip has a 4 times weakness to ice moves. Seal is first. I go for Mega Drain boosted with the Miracle Seed and do just over half. Alright, that's really bad. It hits with Icy Wind, doing roughly 1/3, dropping my speed 1 point lower than Dugong's. While Mega Drain does knock out and I go back to high health, then Pryce chooses Dugong. It moves first, hits with Aurora Beam, and does so much damage. Sleep Powder misses, and I lose to Pryce. Okay, this one is worse than Chuck, but I can put the Seal to sleep, then use Mega Drain, finish it, and have my speed intact for the Dugong. Then I can put it to sleep and chip away with Mega Drain, knocking it out over 3 turns. This was looking good, and the turn before I knocked it out, it wakes up, hits with Aurora Beam, and then I take it down, leaving Hoppip with orange health for the Piloswine. I went for Sleep Powder here, and it was successful, so I thought everything was going to be Pilo fine. But unfortunately, his ace wakes up, uses Blizzard, and Hoppip faints. This battle is like an easier Morty. I don't need to be that lucky, I just have to have Sleep work on every single one of his Pokemon, and it does the 3rd time around. But still, a split of 1 hour 15 minutes and 20 seconds is not good for Hoppip. The Pokemon in the tier list with a time closest to this right now is Lugia. Its finish is 1 hour 14 minutes and 57 seconds. Although I streamed that run a long time ago, and I think that if I played Lugia today, it would definitely make it into the S tier with a time under 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's not an amazing Pokemon in Generation 2. The box art legendaries have their own unique problems, slow growth rates, and annoying PP problems, which is a connection between Lugia and Hoppip because I've been struggling with my PP today. Okay, Jasmine. How bad is this gonna be? Well, Magnemite takes a while to knock out, and my best move here is Headbutt, which is terrible. I have to 4-shot. Luckily her lead does not afflict me with a status condition. I put the Steelix to sleep and then I start using Mega Drain, but it's only doing 1/4. Steelix is still prioritizing Iron Tail here because it does do more damage when compared with Rock Throw. The only time you're going to see this Steelix choose Rock Throw is when you have a 4 times weakness to that move. But even with neutral damage, Iron Tail is doing a lot to Hoppip, and if I'm missing Sleep Powders, this is not going to work. Steelix 2 shots and I lose once. I need to also consider PP for this battle. It's not only important to go for Headbutt against the Magnemite because it's the higher damaging move, I also need all of my Mega Drains for the Steelix. I'm not able to 4-shot, so Jasmine Hyper Potions, and then I have to use 5 more Mega Drains, leaving me with only 2 by the time I knock out her ace. Luckily, it only took 2 attempts. I just need to get a little bit lucky against the final Magnemite. And, well, yeah, it happens. No problems. Even though I was paralyzed, I'm still able to pull through with a win. It's time for the Radio Tower and one of the most difficult trainers for grass types to beat. To prepare for Petrol, I teach Return in the place of Headbutt. And I can also switch out the Miracle Seed for the Pink Bow. But still, I think that this fight's going to be pretty difficult. He has 5 coughing and 1 wheezing. I need to get lucky with Sleep Powder, put each coughing to sleep, and then knock them out with multiple turns using Return. On the first one I get lucky, critical hitting, so it goes down in only 1 hit, which means all of the other coughing are going to be 2 shots. But if I miss Sleep Powder, then they can attack with Sludge, which does 1/3 in damage. Also, it inflicts poison, and I don't have rest, so I can't get rid of the status condition, but I can heal with Synthesis and still try to play the fight out. Sadly, I missed with Sleep Powder. Because of that, coughing hits with a massive Sludge, and then poison damages Hoppip's end. Early into my second battle, I got hit by Smokescreen, so I just reset right away. It doesn't make sense to try to scrape through this fight with lowered accuracy. In this run, I think that Sleep Powder has really felt refreshing to use. I don't like sleep moves in Generation 2, unlike in Generation 1, but for Hoppip it has been a miracle worker. And once again, it's the path to victory against Petrol. And I only lost here twice, which for a first stage grass type is a pretty solid result. The rival in the underground leads with Golbat. Again, type effectiveness here, let's just consider a grass type against his entire team. Weak to Golbat, ineffective against Magnemite, ineffective and weak to Haunter, weak to Sneasel, and ineffective and weak to Quilava. The deck might be stacked against Hoppip, but this Pokemon is playing like it's supposed to, inflicting status conditions with its decent base speed. And by doing this, I'm able to take a first attempt victory against this rival, even though I have to 4-shot his Haunter. This section of the game continues to throw at me bad type matchups. The final executive has Houndour, Coughing, and Houndoom, but Sleep Powder can just prevent them all from attacking. Yay, good job Hoppip. Now let's move on to another trainer that we have bad type effectiveness against. It's Clair. You know the playbook by now. If I'm missing with Sleep Powder, I'm probably losing, getting hit by Thunder Wave and then falling apart. But if I'm hitting with Sleep Powder, then Clair doesn't stand a chance because I'm faster than all of her Pokemon. This is a final gym split of 1 hour 36 minutes and 24 seconds, which is slower than Dunsparce's final time in Pokemon Crystal. So now we're near the end of the D tier. At least we're still ahead of Blissey, which is a fundamentally terrible fully evolved Pokemon for a solo challenge. Of course, in this run, I'm going to be picking up every single rare candy that is available to me, and ideally I would like to hold off on using any of them until right before Red. This way I can train to 90 and avoid all of the levels that take the maximum experience. To get access to efficient training, I need to first beat the rival in Victory Road. This battle's really bad for Hoppip. I have to say, it's kinda nice that he gets one more team member here, which is Kadabra, and in this case, it's neutral against me and I'm neutral against it. It's saying a lot when that's the best type interaction that your Pokemon has against the rival's team, and he has 6 Pokemon for this battle. There are just so many places where this fight can go wrong. Again, it's just missing Sleep Powder. I can get hit by Quilava's Flame Wheel, I can get paralyzed by Magneton's Thunder Wave, or cursed by Haunter. I'll throw another bad thing onto the pile of bad things. I can also get confused, which does happen here, paralysis, confusion, and curse. Hoppip loses. I kept trying, and I kept losing, but I had faith in Sleep Powder, and eventually it works out. All of his Pokemon snooze, I don't get hit by status conditions until the Haunter, which does go for Curse, but then I only have to knock out the Kadabra, and return is physical. After 1 hour, 45 minutes and 15 seconds, which is the same time it took Ladian to beat the entire game, Hoppip is only ready to face the Elite Four. Grass types and unfavorable type effectiveness. That is my obsession for this video. Will's team is terrible for Hoppip. 2 Xatu, 1 Jinx, an Executor which resists grass type moves and is pretty bulky, but there is a silver lining here. We are super effective against the Slowbro, but only with special moves, and Slowbro loves to use Amnesia. Even Return is not able to one-shot Will's Jinx. It goes for Ice Punch, and from full health Hoppip cannot survive. If I want to blackout train against Will, I only get experience from a single Xatu and then I lose to the Jinx. I don't know if that's more efficient than fighting wild Pokemon in Victory Road, but at least I can put the Jinx to sleep and then knock it out. I can also put all of his other Pokemon to sleep because I am faster than every team member here, and I'm able to pull through with a win against Will on my next attempt. Honestly, he's not that bad. Koga, on the other hand, is specifically designed to make Hoppip suffer. I am weak or ineffective against all of his Pokemon. This is a case where a flying type move would really help out against his bugs. I was lulled into a false sense of security here, defeating his Crobat on my first attempt. Then there was only the Venomoth and the Fortress left over. While the Venomoth is super effective, it's a fire type after all, the Fortress is not really that good, and I thought that I could make it by it, but no, I get poisoned, and because of the status condition I end up losing. Now the fact that I beat the Crobat made me want to reset here and just try to make it by Koga, but this is the wrong approach. I lose so many times. Sleep Powder is just too inconsistent and my damage ranges are not good enough. I really didn't want to have to blackout since I can't train quickly against either Will or Koga, but in the end that's what I'm gonna have to do. Losing to Will's Jinx over and over again is just not fun. Due to how ineffective this training was, I started to brainstorm for my second playthrough, since I am going to have access to hidden power for it. I think one of the biggest advantages for Hoppip is choosing a hidden power typing that's going to help me speed through the mid game as well as smooth out my training here during the league. While Will is annoying to defeat, I can do it with Sleep Powder, but Koga on the other hand just isn't working with my status move. I think that having something like Hidden Power Psychic might be very advantageous for this battle, because then I could get experience from Will with Sleep Powder and use Hidden Power Psychic for Koga. At level 60 I made it back to him and I just started resetting. I really wanted to beat him and see how the remainder of the league would go. Maybe Hoppip can just beat everyone else and I'm getting walled exclusively by one trainer and I should make progress with the game. Because coming back after defeating all of Kanto and doing league grinding prior to Red is going to be more efficient since this is so slow as it currently is. It took me forever to beat Koga, but eventually I did it with resets. Right now I have a total of 60 faults, 44 resets, and 16 blackouts. Let's see how Bruno is. Theoretically, I'm a flying type, so this should be easy, but the Hitmonchan has Ice Punch, which does 4 times damage. Now, it is Hitmonchan, it has a terrible special attack stat, but please observe the devastating damage that it does. I think this is the most damage that Hitmonchan has ever dealt. Oh, that's because it got a critical hit. So yeah, Hitmonchan is still really bad. The only other move on Bruno's team that I'm worried about with Hoppip is Rock Slide from Machamp, but I'm able to put it to sleep, heal up with Synthesis, and knock it out with Return. Karen, just like Will and Koga, is really just does Sleep Powder work. If it doesn't, then Umbreon's going to hit with Sand Attack, and from there I'm less and less likely to win. But if I do put the Umbreon to sleep, then I'm not going to have my accuracy dropped, and I'm more likely to put things like this Houndoom to sleep, which is very important because Flamethrower is doing a lot of damage. Still, I can 2-shot with Return, move on, sleep the Vileplume, knock it out, sleep the Gengar, slowly finish it with Mega Drain, although it aids my progress here cursing Hoppip, which is good because I'm at full health. Then I can 2-shot the Murkrow, survive its attacks, and now Hoppip is ready for Lance. Gyarados is by far his worst Pokemon. I have to manage the first Dragonite with Thunder Wave, and Return is only able to 3-hit, which is not ideal. But then things fall apart. Aerodactyl is faster, and Wing Attack and Rock Slide are both super effective. The Rock-type move can also flinch, which it does, and it 2-shots. If I want any chance of beating Lance right now, I'm going to have to use rare candies. It's risky to use these now, because leveling up later into the game is going to take longer, but I really didn't want to go back and have to slog my way through Will, Koga, and Karen again. So I used the 7 candies, bringing Hoppip up to level 69, and then I face Lance again. The nice thing here is that the candies have given me an outspeed on the Aerodactyl, so I can put it to sleep and rely on status conditions to once again win. I reset once at the higher level, and then I started trying lower levels, because I only need to move first against the Aerodactyl. To do that, I need level 67. That allows me to save 2 rare candies for later on, but winning with Sleep Powder is still difficult. The final Dragonite, which is the worst one against me, paralyzes with Thunder Wave, then uses Hyper Beam, doing about half. My Return has to 3-shot, Paralysis prevents my next attack, Dragonite attacks with Twister, followed by Hyper Beam. Hoppip survives on 5 health and gets a critical hit. Hoppip beats Lance with a time of 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 35 seconds. Officially now, the grass type is slower than Pichu, and it's working its way towards the end of the Bruno tier. But these comparisons are a little bit unfair. Remember that all of these Pokemon with their ranked times did have access to Hidden Power, and Hoppip doesn't have that advantage yet. Time for Kanto. I want you to notice here that it is now nighttime for Hoppip. I did not set the clock to nighttime at the beginning of this playthrough, it's just taken so long that the time has incremented. It is extremely rare for this to happen in my solo challenges. It's really only with the worst of the worst Pokemon. I'm gonna get Curse for Hoppip. I don't know if this is gonna be the best way to beat Red, but right now with a speed stat of 140, I am a little bit concerned that it's gonna be my only path to victory. The sleep spam strategy is gonna fall apart if I can't move first against Charizard. To combo with Curse, I buy myself the Protect TM and pick up the leftovers. That's all I need to do to set things up for the early game. Now let's beat some Kanto gym leaders. Erica's not that bad. I do get put to sleep here, which is annoying. It wastes time. Sabrina isn't an issue. I'm faster than all of her Pokemon, so I can put them to sleep if I want, or I can just spam Return, and it's solid physical damage. Hoppip ends up one-shotting everything except the Espeon. Misty's a little bit different. Trying to play purely offensive here is not a good idea, because then the Lapras uses Blizzard and deletes me. Instead, I just need to put the Lapras to sleep and then finish it. Oh, it used Blizzard again. That's not good. Well, Hoppip survives with 22 hit points. I use Mega Drain, gaining some back, Sleep Powder for the Starmie, Return 2 shots, and Mega Drain takes care of Quagsire. Lieutenant Surge is typically difficult just because of paralysis, but Hoppip is over-leveled now, and Return is starting to sweep. The only Pokemon that takes multiple turns is the Magneton, but Sleep works right away. Brock is simple because of type effectiveness. Blaine only has 3 Pokemon, and while the Magcargo is frustrating to knock out, Mega Drain is still decent. Janine is so bad, even if her Pokemon have a type advantage and I'm running Hoppip. So that leads me to Blue. His team has good type diversity. I think that this one's going to be fairly challenging. Hoppip outspeeds everything, which is a good advantage. I can go for the sleep strategy if I really need to, and I think I do. Arcanine comes in second, it knows Flamethrower, I want to avoid that at all costs. Blue is focused on using full restores to get rid of Sleep Powder from Arcanine, which causes me to use it over and over again, and eventually Arcanine hits with Flamethrower, which does too much damage. It really comes down to this: if I miss Sleep Powder on the Arcanine, I'm going to lose. Third time's the charm though, the Arcanine sleeps, I'm able to put it back to sleep over and over again while he uses full restores and then knock it out. From here things are a bit easier. I have to 2-shot the Alakazam, just showing how weak Hoppip really is, but Mega Drain can one-hit the Rhydon so that I avoid Rock Slide. From there it's just clean up with Sleep Powder and Return on Gyarados and Exeggutor. Hoppip is now level 73, and I have 5 rare candies left over because of the 2 that I saved during the league. I can use these to boost it to level 78, and I'm gonna try Red, but this doesn't look good. Right now, Hoppip has 163 speed, which means it is moving second against Pikachu, Espeon, and Charizard. In order to move first against all of them, I will need 185 speed. And to move first against the Charizard and Pikachu, I would need 180. I don't think that moving second against the Charizard is ever going to work out, but I still wanted to try things and see just how much damage Flamethrower was dealing. Maybe if I can survive a hit from Charizard, put it to sleep, and then knock it out, there is the possibility that Hoppip can win at a low level. To test that out, I'm going to have have to make it to the Charizard, and Thunder from Pikachu is doing a lot of damage. It inflicts paralysis and Hoppip loses. I taught Protect in the place of Synthesis because I thought this would be better to avoid Charm on turn 1 from Pikachu. Then I still have to avoid paralysis because the electric type is moving first, so I lose once again because of the status condition. I kept trying, losing one more time quickly to the Pikachu, but then I knock it out because of Sleep Powder and move on. Red sends in Charizard next, which I find really interesting. This is because he sees that Venusaur's grass type is weak to my flying type. So even though Venusaur has a fire type move, which usually causes it to be sent in second against grass types, he is choosing Charizard second because of my flying type. And Flamethrower from the Dragon Lizard is too much to survive even on full health. So there's only one conclusion here, I need to level up more. So I'm doing Blackout training against the League, and it looks very similar to what other Pokemon would do in the mid-50s. By the time Hoppip reaches level 85, I can make it back to Lance, but I still lose here to the Aerodactyl. But I've done everything that I think I need. Hoppip has 181 speed, so I can move first against the Charizard. The only Pokemon Red outspeeds me with is Espeon, and I'm not particularly worried about it. In Sleep Powder we trust. Put the Charizard to sleep, use Return, do roughly 1/3, Charizard wakes up, hits Flamethrower, and at level 85, it's still a one-shot. Okay, it did get a critical hit, so maybe I can survive a regular attack from Charizard, but I didn't get to find out because the next time I'm able to 4-shot with Return while it sleeps. Espeon comes in, uses Psychic, but it does less than half. I put it to sleep and 2-shot using Return. Okay, Snorlax, I put it to sleep. It's going to attack with Snore, which is annoying because it does decent damage, but I can finish it with Return, which is physical. From there, Venusaur is not really a problem, unless Solar Beam is doing a lot of damage. I don't have a healing move because I'm not going to be using Giga Drain on the Venusaur, so I have to slowly chip it down, and my health is under half by the time I arrive at Blastoise, which makes Blizzard very scary. Obviously, I just have to put it to sleep. I go for Giga Drain, which unfortunately does slightly less than half. Blastoise continues sleeping, I take it to a Sliver, it doesn't wake up, and I finish the run out with one more attack. In my first playthrough with it, Hoppip got a time of 3 hours, 6 minutes, and 37 seconds. It had 61 resets and 23 blackouts. It finished the game at level 86 with a game time of 9 hours and 51 minutes. This is a worse result than Tyrogue's follow-up playthrough, but I don't rank based on first attempts, I rank based on follow-ups. So with Hidden Power, what is Hoppip capable of? First of all, I was drawn to Hidden Power Ice because it's a good special attack and it's really handy against Clair as well as Lance. And Lance's team is particularly difficult for most Pokemon, including Hoppip. And Hidden Power Ice also helps against Flying-type Pokemon, most specifically Will Xatu and Koga's Crobat. But I don't think that it's going to give Hoppip the acceleration that it needs during its first round of League Blackout training. And I also wanted a move that would help me throughout the mid-game, most specifically against Morty. Because of this, I ended up settling on Hidden Power Psychic. It's going to be super effective against Morty and Chuck. It's going to help against both Koga and Bruno. And while Will still be annoying, I can at least use Sleep Powder to solve him. Before I get ahead of myself, we need to talk through the early game. In follow-up playthroughs with really bad first stage Pokemon, I don't like to play risky, even if risky is the best way to get outstanding splits. For Hoppip, I just wanted to be able to make it through the early game with minimal resets and blackouts, and get to the mid game where Hidden Power can really shine. Because of this, I fought many more optional trainers in the early game, defeating Falkner 3 minutes and 1 second slower than I did in my first run. I went back and grabbed the Pink Bow immediately after beating Falkner for the boosted tackles damage. By the way, you can't pick up this item if you haven't already beaten Falkner. Unfortunately in Slowpoke, well, I got slowed down a little bit with confusion causing a blackout to one of the rockets. This is annoying, but I'm roughly 25 minutes into this playthrough, so I'm not going to restart. Bugsy at level 22 really isn't difficult. The difference on my set this time is that I've kept Leech Seed. This way I can use Sleep Powder plus Leech Seed on the rival's Ghastly and knock it out. I can also use this combo for his Quilava to speed up progress. To mitigate even a little bit more risk, I'm holding the Paralyzed Cure Berry to prevent the Ghastly from waking up and causing the status condition with Lick. Using the Leech Seed strategy, I'm able to beat the rival on my first attempt. I was expecting the times to swing in Hoppip's advantage massively at Morty, but I actually take a time lead after defeating Whitney. I came out of the third split 3 minutes and 10 seconds ahead of my former pace. Okay, time to gain the advantage advantage of Hidden Power. To have Hidden Power Psychic, my DVs are 11 HP and 12 defense, maxed attack, speed, and special. The loss of HP is not even regrettable in this case, it's just clearly worth it. With Hidden Power Psychic at level 33, I have an 85.6% chance to one-shot the rival's Haunter, and if I do that, then I can avoid Curse and the rest of the battle is simple. Plus, I can consistently one-shot the Zubat, which is inconsistent using Headbutt. Inside the gym, Hidden Power Psychic has guaranteed one-shots on every single ghost, with the exception of Morty's Gengar, but I have a two-shot, so even if it successfully lands a Hypnosis, the Mint Berry just counters the status. Psychic moves are better against the fighting types in Chuck's gym, although Black Belt Knob gets a critical hit with Rock Slide from his Machoke, and this does cause another blackout. A little bit unfortunate. Knob ends up being the best trainer here, because Chuck's days of winning against Hoppip are over. I was really frustrated with how Pryce went last time, so I decided to fight Jasmine first, but this is quite risky. Without Pryce's badge, I have lower special attack, and so Jasmine's Pokemon are a little bit more difficult to manage. I can still pull this off because I have Sleep Powder, but I end up having a total of 7 resets against her before I win. The clear mistake that I made in this section of the game is that I should have fought all the Rockets in the hideout before coming back and facing Jasmine at a higher level. Then I could take on Pryce after, and here I really just need to get lucky with Sleep Powder. That works out, and I end up 9 minutes and 19 seconds ahead of my former pace when the Ice-type specialist is defeated. But this isn't entirely a fair comparison, we have to wait until Clair for that. I got unlucky during the radio tower with the scientist who has Magnemites defeating me. I took a blackout here because I didn't save before him. Luckily, Petrol is not going to cause problems because Hidden Power Psychic has guaranteed one-shots on the Coughing and a two-shot on the Wheezing. Hidden Power Psychic also helps against the rival in the Underground. I have super effective damage for the Golbat and the Haunter, but I have to rely on Sleep for everything else. In the department store, I make sure to buy 4 Carbos. These are very important for Charizard. Clair is annoying, I get a reset. I really wish I could have both Hidden Power Ice and Hidden Power Psychic for this playthrough, but that's not how this move works. So, does Hidden Power Psychic really pay off during Elite Four grinding? The answer is no, not against Will. This battle is still bad, and I have a bunch of losses here, so experience is fairly slow. And against Koga, Hidden Power Psychic is helpful, but he's still very scary. In the end, this section of the game just comes down to patience and relying on Sleep Powder once my level is high enough. Throughout Kanto, my moveset is Mega Drain, Hidden Power Psychic, Sleep Powder, and Return. Okay, I'm ready to turn my eyes towards the final battle in the game. There are 2 important metrics to consider here. Number 1, the level that Hoppip needs to outspeed Charizard, which is 85. And number 2, the level that Hoppip can start surviving flamethrowers at. In some cases, it would be possible to play a Pokemon using a curse strategy and then just surviving flamethrower. But for Hoppip, I don't think that's possible. Number 1, setting up curse on Pikachu is a nightmare because electric moves do so much damage. Number 2, Espeon follows the Charizard, and I would need to be a higher level to outspeed it as well. And at level 85, Hoppip is already starting to survive flamethrowers, plus it has the outspeed on Charizard. So it felt most logical to me to synergize my strategy around the outspeed on Charizard rather than trying to survive flamethrower. Living through the Fire-type move is just a nice benefit of the level required to outspeed. For this fight, I made no changes to my previous strategy. The set is Return, Protect, Sleep Powder, and Giga Drain. When Sleep Powder isn't working, it's really painful, and when Sleep Powder is working, it's very satisfying. I wish this didn't require so much luck. You might be wondering what would happen if Venusaur came in second instead of Charizard. Maybe then setting up with Curse, surviving the Flamethrower, and sweeping from there would be possible. But not really. The Blastoise does between 116 and 137% damage with Blizzard when Hoppip is level 86. Because it's always going to see that it gets the one-shot with Blizzard, it is going to roll for this move every single time. So if I was using Curse, I would have to be a higher level so that Blastoise wouldn't go for Blizzard. If it sees that it's never going to get the one-shot, then it will use Rain Dance instead. The real problem is that Charizard just comes in second, so you have to deal with it before you move on, and that makes Curse much worse. So Hoppip doesn't have to rely on generic strategies at the end of the game. It gets to play as Game Freak intended it, using status conditions. I had 4 resets to red, and when I finally beat him, I was 42 minutes and 15 seconds ahead of my previous time. Hoppip finishes the game in 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 22 seconds, with 16 resets, 30 blackouts at level 86, with a game time of 8 hours and 54 minutes. This was an exhausting video to film, and I played both of the runs in the same day to ensure that I was fresh and not forgetting anything about this incredibly long playthrough. Hidden Power Psychic certainly helps, and I was able to save a ton of time, but I still wasn't able to save Hoppip from a Bruno tier finish. In my second run with it, I was able to get a time between Pichu and Shuckle in the Bruno tier. Hoppip might be cute, but it's absolutely awful in a solo challenge. But I wonder if there is a first stage grass type that might be worse than it. Hoppip's base stat total is 250, which seems ridiculously good compared to Sunkern's base 180. So later this month, I'm going to play the other first stage grass type and see how it does in Pokemon Crystal. If you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.